What's up, wrestling fans, trading card collectors? Welcome to another episode of Wrestling with Cards Live. And we're just going to talk about wrestling and wrestling cards. It's normally what we do on this channel. But I have I'll call it a potpourri of topics. Not anything I really wanted to specifically focus on today. No guest. So I figured I'd just cover some random topics that kind of came to mind. So thank you guys for stopping by and watching it. If you're watching live, thank you for taking the time out of your day to do so. Let me know in the chat if you got any questions, comments, anything like that. And if you're watching on the archives, again, thanks for stopping by. Leave a comment below this video of anything that you've got, any thoughts and opinions you've got on this video. So first off, a little bit of housekeeping. Let me add this. I'm going to be adding a new Patreon tier, probably the $3. And here's what we're going to be doing. So for those of you who don't know, Patreon's crowdfunded. Most of this money, like the camera that I'm using this on, that money came from Patreon. The computer I'm using came from Patreon money. I just put it all back into what I'm doing. If you're interested in helping support the channel or supporting the podcast, anything I'm doing, it's there for you. If not, no problem. Just keep watching on YouTube. I appreciate the support. Anything that you can contribute, be it no money and just watching, or if you want to contribute, that's fine. The $1 tier, something I don't talk about a lot, is I only have a couple videos up right now, but I've started it's called They Were All Stars. When I get more episodes up, I'm going to put the trailer up for everybody to check out. Everybody in the $1 tier gets those for free. I think I've got 2 or 3 up right now. I'm working on a Mil Mascaras one right now. It'll be up soon. But I'm going to add another tier. There'll be a $3 tier. It's going to feature all of my videos and podcasts early and ad-free, probably about a week early. No ads, so you don't have to worry about that. And then I'm going to have a new video project on there as well called the Wrestling Rookie Report. And what it's going to be is a kind of very quick, short videos, and it's going to be similar to like a news broadcast where I'm going to cover the first card, the first pack pull, the first official rookie card, the first relic, the first autograph, and like do real quick videos of different superstars. So take, I don't know, Big Boss Man, and we're going to run through those. Hulk Hogan, we're going to run through those. And a couple of those will be available per month. Those will be at the $3 tier. I'm also going to reconfigure the $5 and $10 tier. I'm not going to spend much more time on that, but if you want to help contribute to the content I put out, check out Wrestling with Cards on Patreon. Link in the show notes to that. But moving on, let's get rid of that. So we're going to start with the Wax Museum podcast. Kyle from the Wax Museum has been on the archives of this show. You can go check that out. I did an interview with him. Actually, I wasn't on there. The Midnight Rider actually interviewed him, not me. I had a guest fill in for the interview. So definitely check that one out in the archives. But I talk about how I check out other content that isn't wrestling card related all the time, whether it's business or other sports card stuff, whatever. So I was listening to a recent episode of the Wax Museum podcast where he had Prolific Sports Cards on Instagram on. And he was talking about a pivot in his collecting and his habits and his buying. And they were both talking about how they've kind of gotten away from the ultra modern stuff. And it's not like they were going to vintage stuff, but they were also going to like mid 2000s and early 2000s, stuff like that. And it just kind of light bulb went off. On the last couple episodes, I've talked about how, this whole Fanatics and Panini and WWE and the court fiasco that's going on with that. And what do you do as a collector? If you're one of those people that just constantly goes after new product, you're not going to have new product. So what do you do? And I just wanted to bring this up on this video today because I think that episode could really help a lot of you. And what I would like to see happen is a lot of these collectors that are just going after that new product. And, maybe it's that they just like to rip wax. And at that point, I don't know, like if you're just going after the new product to rip wax because you like that as a form of entertainment, which there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're going to try to find older boxes to just rip like that, it's going to cost quite a bit, I think, because that stuff's already started drying up. And then with no new product coming out, the prices on that stuff's just going to be more anyway. But I would really like to see people go back and look at some of the older stuff. And when I say older stuff, most of us all know about the 80s and 90s stuff that's out there. What I would like to see more people kind of dig into and uncover and discover is the stuff from like the, let's just say 2008 to like 2017, that whole run. Mostly all Topps stuff. There's obviously other wrestling cards out there besides Topps, but from a WWE perspective, that era, there's just not a lot of stuff that people are talking about out there. There is one card we're going to touch on later in the show that comes out of there that is something that I actually just got in a collection. I didn't even know it existed, and that's a prime example of how I just got something that I didn't know existed in the collection that sent me back to looking at this stuff that a lot of people aren't talking about that maybe could go up in value based on popularity, depending on what people think of this stuff. But not only would I like to see these collectors kind of pivot to older product and uncover new things, but also the learning process. Like, again, listening to Prolific Sports Cards on the Wax Museum podcast, he was talking about how he was going back to the really vintage basketball stuff and learning about players and what they did, what they represented, what they meant to their teams, what these teams meant to the league at that time period, all of these things that tied into basketball history. And I've always preached how much wrestling history is important and how I think that could be even more important to cards if people would just kind of lean into that a little bit. And I would like to see that with wrestling as well. Maybe there's a lot of people that say, I didn't grow up in the 80s. Why do I need to care about the wrestlers that are featured in 85 Topps WWF? Because I didn't grow up with them. I don't care about them. But maybe they go back on the network, on YouTube, something else. Maybe they discover some of these talents and they're able to then associate a fandom and realize, oh, Brutus Beefcake, man, he really was important for that time period. I want to go buy some of his cards. Maybe it is in Prism then, or Select or whatever that he's also in. And I just pulled out a name as an example. But maybe they like the modern product, but they don't understand the older talent. So that would be a bridge there. Maybe they start respecting the older cards. And I'm not saying to completely switch from collecting modern to mid 2000s or vintage or whatever. I'm just saying that I think that this kind of hold on current product coming out could potentially broaden the horizons of some wrestling card collectors. Maybe they start new player PCs. Maybe they start new sets. I don't know. But as I was listening to this podcast, it just, the light bulb was going off like, man, I would love to see this kind of mentality also come over into wrestling cards. So again, check out, it's the latest episode of the Wax Museum podcast. Prolific Sports Cards, at Prolific Sports Cards on Instagram is the guest. So make sure to check that out if you so choose. The next topic I wanted to cover is relic cards. I think for the most part, most people just associate relic cards with, oh yeah, it's the piece of mat, it's the piece of, shirt, the black shirt, the gray mat, those things. And Topps really didn't do a great job of that. Fleer did a great job. Again, check out the WrestlingTradingCards.com YouTube channel for a lot of talk about relic cards and their importance in wrestling card history. Definitely check those out. Great discussions on that, so especially the Fleer year stuff. But another way of collecting with the matte relics is go back on the archives of this channel and check out Doug Driesel Jr.'s interview I did with him about his matte relic matte relic project that he was doing. I don't think he's doing that anymore because it just became too much of an undertaking for him to continue to do that from like a size perspective. Because if you're trying to put together, I guess a little bit of a spoiler alert for those who haven't watched, if you're trying to put together a regulation size WWE ring out of 1-inch squares of matte relic, that's going to be a lot of cards, but it is a cool concept. Again, go watch those videos in the archives of this channel whenever you so choose. But I think that there's a lot, and I've talked about it before, the relic cards still matter. And I've got two examples today, and one of them, that they're both from my eBay store, and I'm not trying to sell anything, so, I mean, I am, but I'm not promoting this card to sell it, although if you want to, go for it. So, here we go. So, 2011, remember I was just talking about Topps here. 2011 Superstar Swatches event used Cody Rhodes. Okay, so it's Cody Rhodes, sure. And I don't really care for the design that much, and it's just a black swatch. So who cares, right? That's not what we're wanting to talk about here. This is what we're wanting to talk about. So if you read the back of this, congratulations. You've just received a Superstar Swatch relic card of Cody Rhodes from 2011. Now here's the key. The relic on this card is from an authentic event-worn t-shirt from SmackDown, January 11th, 2011, Birmingham, Alabama. So I'm going to leave that up for sake of discussion. If they continue to put out relic cards that have this much detail on the back of it, not only is it going to be important to wrestling card collectors, but it's going to be important to wrestling fans. And I've talked about this before, but this is just that when I saw this in that collection, I was like, I've got to talk about this with everybody. It's a perfect example of what I've been talking about. Somebody goes to this event and they don't just want the t-shirt. They don't just want the program, or the foam finger or whatever it is that they're selling at these events. They want something more important. And hypothetically, somebody goes to the show and then years later realizes, oh man, I remember I went to that show, and then they find out, oh, there's an actual event piece from that. And not only that, Cody Rhodes wore it and they're a Cody Rhodes fan. Like, this is everything that lines up with why relic cards, even though it's a black t-shirt, even though the card design is not that great, in my opinion, all of these things line up to really matter for relic cards. And, regardless of, I don't think we're going to get this with Panini if they continue to put out cards, but Fanatics, they've got access to all this stuff. And I would just really like to see more detail to relic cards like what we're seeing on the back of this Cody Rhodes card. So again, it would appeal to Cody Rhodes collectors, wrestling card collectors, the random fan that just happened to go to that, because there are I think there are a lot of people out there who are into cards, and I think that most people think that if you're in the hobby, you super collect or you set collect or you just buy and sell all the time. And it's not the case. I've seen people and talked to people. They like cards, they're into cards, but maybe they just buy a piece here and there, like a one-off. Maybe it's a item to put on their desk at work, or maybe they have this man cave sports card wrestling room or whatever, and it's a piece. They buy a card, whether it's a base card or something like this, what we're talking about, and it's just that item that ties in that nostalgia and that collection and what it means to them. It's not like they're trying to go after every single thing. Maybe they are. But I'm just saying, like, when you get to the level of detail that's specified on these relic cards, like what we're looking at right now, sky's the limit on the, potential interest from an audience perspective. And of course, we have I think most people, when they think of like valuable, important relic cards towards the more modern stuff, we're looking at like the immaculate, impeccable stuff that came, and some select that came out that had the like WWE logo man, if you're familiar with that. In fact, I don't even know if I've shared it. Let's do this. I'm going to, just as an example for those of you who are not into sports cards as much, let's pull up. I'm going to pull up a card for you here to show you an example. So we're going to remove the Cody. So here is a Allen Iverson logo man. So this is for those of you who aren't familiar, this patch is usually on the jersey, like one on the left or right hand side. So here, you have the game used patch of the logo. So that's the whole concept of why, like, WWE logo man, when they put the little WWE logo and the little swatch, or they try to put that piece on there, or whatever they can fit into some of these higher end WWE cards. That's why they're a little bit more important and why they sell for more, even if they don't have autographs. I mean, look at this. This card does not have any autographs at all. And yet, and WWE, I don't know as much about these, so I'm not sure I think most of these are one-of-ones, but I could be wrong. I know most of the WWE ones that they put out were one-of-ones. I think maybe there were a couple that weren't, but they were still like lower number, like golds out of 10 or something like that. So I just wanted to bring that up for sake of discussion and example. So let's take a look at another card that is why relics are important. And again, I'm just using this reference out of my eBay store because this has been talked about before. I got this card in a collection as well, and it just didn't really fit my PC. So I was like, I'll just list it. But here we go. The 2021 Roman Reigns Payback relic. And you may be saying, Well, why is this important? It's one of those lame gray swatches of matte. Well, let's look at the back. Oh, well, the only thing it's got going for it is it does have the date, and then it does say you own an authentic payback event used relic. Okay, well, that's a little bit more detail than a lot of the stuff Panini's going to give us, right? So we're going to leave it on here for a minute. The reason that this one is important is because this payback event is the start of the now infamous Roman Reigns title run that he's still on to this day. Something that, I think it would be cool to see him break all these records, but I know a lot of people don't. But I just think it's different. We haven't seen a wrestling champion hold a title for that long. And I know that you can, if you want to get really in the weeds on the nerdy wrestling talk, you could talk about, well, the like longevity doesn't matter because it's not part of this specific title lineage and all this stuff. But for this, I just want to be a fan. I don't want to get too far down the rabbit hole on that. But so this card is significant because at this event, he started that title reign. So again, let's use that Cody example. Somebody was at this event. Somebody's a Roman super collector. Somebody's just wanting a piece of wrestling history. This would be it. This would appeal to the Roman collector, the casual wrestling fan who was at that event, the casual wrestling fan or sports collector that just wants a piece of history and a meaningful piece. So the more details that we can get on relic cards like this, and like that Cody Rhodes card, it's going to, I think, push the value and more so the popularity of relic cards further within the wrestling card space. So just wanted to touch on that. Now, next topic I wanted to touch on was what's going on with the wrestling card market. Like, it's really interesting to me that I think there's, and I would love to hear your opinions on this. If you're watching live, let me know in the chat. There seems to be this, like, not a divide, but a discrepancy between what we see on social media, what people say are their grail cards, what they say are popular, rare, scarce, the things they really want, whatever, and then what we see, those numbers. So I've gotten cards in collections, or I've graded cards, and let's just say it's gold. Let's say it's a Mojo out of 25. Let's say it's an autograph card, whatever. Maybe it grades low, maybe it grades high, whatever. But it's, I put those for sale, or I'll see other people on social media trying to sell, they pull a black one of one, or they pull a gold or whatever. And I think most people are like, oh, well, it's instantly going to sell and you're going to make a lot of money on this. And that's just not what I've seen be the case. From, I've had people DM me and they're like, what's the deal? I've been trying to sell this card. There's specifically people saying, I'm a super collector of this person, or, I've been looking for this card. And then when it comes down to it, they don't want to open the wallet. Just today, I saw somebody talk about, I think it was on Twitter, a card that sold. I don't remember who it was. It was a modern star of a modern card, and it was a one of one. And they stated that they loved the card, but the price was just too outrageous, and it was like $500 or $600, and it was a top. Maybe it's Seth Rollins, Seth or Becky or Brock or one of them. And I'm just thinking, like, if they're that much of a collector of that talent, and it's a one of one, you'd think they'd have to have that card. So I guess that mindset is, my question is it just an economic thing? Like, take cards out of the equation. Is the economics of the average collector, like, at a point where they can't pay for certain cards that they want because they've got too many expenses, supporting a family, supporting themselves, paying the bills, the important things in life. And kind of as a side note, Bo 1 Million Cubs, I was watching a stream with him not too long ago, and there was a guy on that he mentioned in a Facebook group that he saw where this guy was like going through a divorce or something, and he was like, man, I really don't want to dip into the PC. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, there's real life events out there that times are going to happen where you've just got to sell the stuff in your PC if you can't make real life things work. And then again, that kind of goes into what we're talking about here. Like, is that kind of where we're at, where, people are comfortable spending $5, $10, $20 on a card, but they're not so much comfortable spending a couple $100s on a card, even if it's a rarer card, even if let's say there's a whole bunch listed at 1,000 and the recent comp is 7 and there's one listed for 2, but yet the $200 is still a lot for people to spend in this current climate of, I don't know. I don't know what the deal is, but I just think it's very interesting. And I like to use my eBay store as an example. And again, the link to my eBay store is in the show notes if you want to go check out what I have for sale. And if not, don't worry about it. I don't care. Thank you for stopping by and watching. But I sell a lot. Now, most of my inventory is lower end, right? And I'll sell, a 5-card order, a 10-card order, 15-card order, whatever it is. And most of them are like $1, $2, $5 cards. But then again, social media talks about, certain cards or sets or people's autographs and all these things. And I'll have some of those on my eBay store, or I'll try to sell them on social media, or I'll see others again trying to sell those cards, or cards that are even better. That I'll see people with cards available on social media for sale that are like better than anything that I have available in my store, and nobody's buying them, like not even a sniff. So I'm just curious that what do you guys think about why there's this discrepancy between the social media buzz of certain parallels and certain talents and certain cards, and then what people are actually willing to pay? Because we're seeing record sales like across the board. Again, I want to promote the WTC YouTube channel. Go check out what Tony and Paul are doing over there. They do I think it's called the 3 count now. They rebranded it, where they're talking about the highest sales that month. And if you look at these sales, they're continually going up. And it's certain cards are just outselling other ones every single month, it seems like. But yet, these kind of sub $1,000 cards, like, I don't know, it just seems like people aren't wanting to spend the money as much. So again, if you're in the chat, if you're watching live, if you're watching on the archives, let me know in the comments what you guys think of that. So next topic I want to touch on, and this is kind of the last topic to kind of elaborate on, and that's inserts, parallels, and the popularity. So I think there's just a little bit of confusion within within wrestling cards that I wanted to touch on. So inserts, for most people, it's a subset within the base set, because I think a lot of people think like Galactics are inserts, PMGs are inserts, and they're not. Those are parallels. So the inserts are stuff like, to use Prism as an example, prismatic entrances, or ringside royalty, I believe is what that one's called. What's some more? The gold, where they're holding the championship. That's a cool one. Some of the champions autographed set, like that's a insert set, or subset, whatever. So in my opinion, I've always thought that the insert, especially with Prism, and I'm trying to remember Topps, like there's some hit and miss stuff with Topps, like where the insert was actually cooler than the base card. But with Panini, I think the inserts have always I think the design is cooler than a lot of the base cards. I think the images used are always cooler than the base cards. And then you've got the parallels on top of that, which we'll talk about in a minute. But they never seem to be as popular as just the base card. And I think that's more of when I say recent, I mean like within the last 5 to 10 years. I think, well, maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong on that, because like the base rookie card craze that has been going on since the beginning of cards, the beginning of the hobby, and people want to go after that base rookie card. But then when we start getting parallels, people are like, okay, well, I want the base rookie card or the base card, and I want the gold, I want the shimmer, I want the black 1/1, like whatever it is. But we've got these inserts, and you kind of, and this is back when I was collecting in the 90s as a real small kid, and I was like seeing these amazing inserts, and now you look at those inserts and a lot of them are selling for a lot of money. So, and they're harder to find than you think, and they're very popular. So I have just an example here. Let me pull up Cardboard Connection here. Let me share the screen. Okay, and is it possible? We got a question here. Is it possible for me to do the Prince Nana dance? No, I'm not doing that. I'm going to leave that to Eric Bischoff or everybody at AEW to do that. But thank you for stopping by. Thank you for the comments. All right, so let's talk about these insert cards, right? So what I wanted to compare was, okay, well, let's look at some 90s basketball inserts. Like that was the craze that started popularity and wild pricing and wild designs of insert cards. So here we go. This is from Cardboard Connection, the best and wildest 1990s basketball inserts. All right, we're going to quickly scroll through these, especially the late 90s. Like the later you got into the 90s, the more crazy these things got from a design perspective, and the more valuable they are now. 96, 97 cut above from EX, like the saw blade here. Of course, they use Jordan as an example, but these are great. The Flair Showcase Hot Shots, I remember these too. Flair in general, like for those of you who never opened Flair basketball, you would get these in like a little cardboard box, and it'd be like in a sealed package within the box, if you bought like a whole box. And these, like, I think there was like 4 or 5 cards in a pack, and they were thicker stock, and they were real glossy. And you had designs like this. I mean, you thought like, and I remember it was like, I want to say it was like $5 to $7 a pack. And I was like, oh, why would I do that when I could buy collector's choice packs for like $1.50 or something? But I was a kid. I didn't understand. But Flair in itself just put out some great product. But like that is a great one. Premium Golden Touch from Skybox Premium. Again, like these are the kind of designs, because Upper Deck owns the Skybox stuff. These are kind of the designs we're seeing, I think, a little bit in AEW that they're borrowing from, and some of them just stealing, which maybe get into in this list. Like here, yeah, here's the Big Man on Court, which is really cool. But here, yeah, the Jambalayas. Okay, so these have come out in 97, 98. For those of you who have seen the AEW, it's basically the same design. Metal Universe Platinum Portraits I think they're cool. A lot of people don't like those. Skybox, another Skybox Premium design. So you can see where Upper Deck has kind of taken what they did with Skybox and kind of using that for the AEW Metal Universe stuff and some of the other stuff. Noise Boys was always really cool, I thought. The Mystique Raise the Roof cards are cool. So yeah, I just wanted to give an example there of why some of the insert cards that, you hear hype about insert cards and 90s inserts. And most of these, to my knowledge, there were no parallels. Now, there were parallels in these products, but they were not like the parallels we know of today. And they are definitely not like parallels that we see now. But I think there's just misconception that, inserts should be more valuable than they are. And it's just not the case anymore. Despite me liking the images more on the inserts and the design better, they're just not as valuable. And you can see, like, I've seen people on social media talk about it. Like, well, I have a gold Roman Reigns insert, whatever. And they're like, well, it's a PSA 10, but it's not selling, and the value and the interest, like, it's not to the same as the base card. And why is that? And it just is what it is. Like, that's what the hobby's decided, that insert cards are not going to be as valuable as parallels. Now, you could say, like, well, I'm going to use this example here in a moment when I tie in some other thing, but let's go ahead and talk about parallels. So, again, I see people will pull, a prismatic entrance card, and they'll say, oh, well, this is a cool parallel. No, it's not. It's not a parallel. That's an insert. The parallels are just the base version of that card that are a different color, have a different finish, are numbered, etc. So, a gold, the black 1 of 1, blue out of whatever, gold shimmers, like those are all parallels. I think most people know this, but just in case you're watching this and you weren't familiar, like, again, that's just information that is for you to learn the more you get into this hobby. Nothing wrong with learning. So, just a variation of the card, and most of the time, the golds command the most, and there's people out there that'll say, well, a gold's out of 10, right? Well, I've got this gold flash or this gold this or that, and it's out of 5. Okay, so 5 is more rare than out of 10, but it's not the case, because that's not what the hobby has decided. Most of the hobby has decided that the gold parallel is like the pun intended gold standard parallel for cards. And then, of course, the black 1 of 1, if you're looking at Panini products, or if you're looking at Topps products, the Superfractor, or I guess in some Panini, and some like other sports, gold vinyl, which is the same as a Superfractor essentially. But Superfractors are what most wrestling fans know for a long time. So those are the 1 of 1s. And then if you want to kind of combine the two with parallels and inserts, and kind of how that ties into wrestling. So let's talk about Kabooms first. That is technically like a subset or an insert. And I think that, I knew the history, and I'm going to pull this up, so give me one moment. I knew the history of what kabooms meant in the sports card world, just because, again, I like to check out different aspects of the hobby and learn those things, as I've said before, and, talk about, like, how can I take the habits of what I'm seeing in sports cards and make those work for either me from a market standpoint, monetary standpoint in wrestling, or from a collecting standpoint. So I know, like, what is going to be more valuable than something else. So I'm going to bring this up on the screen here to show you. Give me 1 second. So here's just an example of some kabooms, right? And these are kind of what we have seen from WWE. They look very similar, basically the same card. And now these are going to sell for a little bit more because the Kobe Bryant market, the Peyton Manning market, Tom Brady, even Matt Ryan, maybe. These are going to be bigger. There's Joe Burrow, bigger collector bases for these. Sports generally are going to have a bigger collector base than wrestling, regardless of who we're talking about. But this is what I don't think a lot of people. So people in the wrestling card world, they see these kabooms, they see what they're selling for, and they think, well, my wrestling card is going to be valuable because I just pulled the Bray Wyatt, the Roman insert wrestler name here version of the kaboom, so it's going to sell like Tom Brady. It's going to, because it's a kaboom, right? Not so much the case. I like these designs. I know a lot of people don't, but I think it's a really cool design. But what really sells in sports cards that kind of created this is the parallels. So here is a Dennis Smith Jr., which is not a huge name in basketball. That's a gold. There's a Giannis gold. There's greens. I believe the greens are they one of ones? I mean, yeah. So here's a green. I can't remember if these are one of ones or not. But my point is that the parallels are really what's going to drive the kaboom sales. They drive they go anyway in the sports card world, and we've seen some big sales in the wrestling card world. But when this came out, I was imagining, okay, they're going to have the golds, they're going to have the greens, they're going to have maybe they have a unique parallel that's only specific to WWE, and that would be cool. Great concept. But I think there was misconception there that people thought my kabooms are going to be worth millions, just like in the sports card world, and that's not been the case, in my opinion, because they don't have the parallels. But then let's move on to Galactics. And the Galactics are unnumbered parallels of the base cards in Revolution, no matter who you're looking at, even if you're looking at inserts. So once again, there are insert cards with parallels within all of these. So you're kind of doubling up on the terminology that we're using here. But I think that's created a lot of controversy and I'll say questioning from the wrestling card market, wrestling card collectors, and that is the grasp of unnumbered parallels. So you may have somebody that says, well, why is a Galactic worth more and valued more and sought after more by collectors than a Red Wave, because they're both not numbered? And the best example I can give you, one moment, is that the Galactics, and I'll even throw like zebra print, tiger print, those kind of things, animal prints. Those things are like case hits or like SSP super short prints. So they're known to have very little copies, as opposed to out of 99, whatever. So I think that took a little bit more grasping, which, again, that's something I saw in the sports card world, and I was like, okay, well, I know how this works over here. How's it going to work in wrestling? And I was right on some things and wrong on some things. That's just how it usually is, because the wrestling card collecting community reacts differently. Now, I've seen a lot of people completely latch on to Galactics more so than kabooms, because they like the design or they like the talent that they can get a Galactic in, or maybe it's just like something clicked and they understand that the Galactics are rare. And same thing with animal print. Like, animal print has really caught on with the wrestling card collecting community. So, but then there's this other aspect of the wrestling card community that just, they can't grasp unnumbered parallels. And I don't know what it's going to, does a bunch of high-end sales, does that fix the perceived value, perceived importance of unnumbered parallels like Animal Prints, like Galactics. I don't know. We'll see. And then the last one I wanted to touch on is PMGs. This is probably the biggest misconception, is that, like, before, let's just say before that, Upper Deck put out a checklist for AEW Metal Universe, and maybe they just, the PMGs that you know of were from sports cards. So you'd see them, oh, it's 90s, it's late 90s, it's an insert. These rare 90s inserts, they're so popular and worth everything. In fact, let's just pull up 90s basketball PMGs. Because if you're watching this and you aren't as familiar with sports cards, maybe you don't understand like the design or whatever, like the importance of these coming out at the time. I don't know why, but I'm having a difficult time. Let's do it this way. And we saw this in other sports too, but it was mainly basketball. So, okay, here we go. So, most of you know that Upper Deck with AEW, these reds and these greens, they've got those in the AEW products, which I think look great. I'm a huge fan of in my opinion, AEW Metal Universe is the best product that AEW's put out. Not just because of the PMGs, but I just love the metal design. And I think there's the inserts, we're talking inserts and parallels. I think the inserts in the Metal Universe they're actually really cool looking too, for the most part. Bonzo Gonzo, no. But so here is the, so this was the golds, and I don't remember, see, those are different than the greens and the reds. I'm not as educated on these to be full train. I know there's a difference in the gold. But you can see that a lot of these designs, Upper Deck just took straight from their Skybox license and applied those into the wrestling cards that we've seen with AEW. And these things were just, ahead of their time. And I think the problem that we've kind of run into now within PMGs is that they're watered down. Back then, you had, I want to say, don't quote me on this, but I want to say the original PMGs, we had 1 year, maybe 2 years of them within the product, and they had them for basketball, baseball, and football. But they just weren't like they are now. Like, you go out and buy any Upper Deck produced AEW, AEW, I keep saying AEW, just habit. Any Upper Deck product. So if you go buy hockey, if you go buy just the Metal Universe that's got like the non-sports and sports in it, if you go buy AEW metal, like there's going to be all these PMGs. Now, I do think the gold PMG 1 of 1s, very good, Upper Deck. Good job on that one. But in my opinion, they've just PMG'd us to death. Like there's, the purple, which looks great, but there's just so many of them. And I just wonder if they've, kind of taken this too far. And as much as I love PMGs, big proponent of that Hulk Hogan Upper Deck employee exclusive PMG, go check it out in the archives of this channel if you don't know. But huge proponent of PMGs. I understand the importance, and I'm still looking for some personally for my collection, but they're not they're parallels. They're not insert cards. So just kind of specifying on that. And what do you think? Do you think that the PMGs have been watered down a little bit? Has Upper Deck put out too many? They're just not as special anymore? I don't know. I'd just love to hear your opinion. So that's all I had for today, but let's cover some comments. Wrestling Unabridged, thanks for stopping by. From what I've seen in the wrestling card community, there are still a limited number of buyers who spend the big money, especially on single cards. The smaller buyers are influenced by them. Oh, and here's an additional. And copy their buying habits way more than we realize. I think you're right. Yep. On both aspects, like from the copying standpoint, like seeing whatever everybody else is buying, and I've got to have that. Everyone's buying Roman Reigns. I've got to go buy Roman Reigns. Everybody's buying Cody. Everybody's buying LA Knight, Rhea Ripley, like the biggest, latest. That's just the hobby, I think. You see that in sports where somebody has a rookie quarterback is, the hype in the fantasy football blogs is blowing up. This guy's going to be huge. Cards start picking up. He gets injured, cards start going down. Same kind of thing that we've seen within wrestling, both on the high end and the low end, from a pricing and a popularity standpoint. So yeah, I think you're 100% right on that. Frank W, thanks for stopping by. I don't sell wrestling, I just collect, so I don't keep up with the market. Do cards go up if a wrestler's headlining a pay-per-view like a player would in playoff run? Kind of. Just how I spoke about it. It really, it's different. Like, I wouldn't say that. I would say it's more screen time. The more, like LA Knight, like he has like not put in a main event well, maybe soon, but put in the main event program with Roman. But we haven't seen him like bantered about like a headliner, you know. AEW's kind of established MJF as like the headliner, and Adam Cole's kind of mixed in with that. So you see those guys, they're kind of established talent. But then, you know, the Rhea Ripley's been around forever, and it seems like there's just been this gradual build, just like her career. You know, there's been a gradual build. She's getting more popular by the day, and the cards, the sales, both from a pricing standpoint and from a volume standpoint, just continue to go up. Be it the person who's just getting into wrestling cards and they see her on TV and they go out and buy a base card, or the person with, you know, big bank account that's going to get all her one-on-ones, scooping them all up, like whatever it is. So I would say it's more screen time, in my opinion, that reflects the market, but it's also rarity. Like, you know, and going back to what Wrestling Unabridged was talking about, the copy and paste, so to speak. So everybody says one-of-ones and golds are where you've got to go. And this ties back into what I was talking about how the social media buzz doesn't exactly line up with what I see in the market. And everybody's like, go buy this wrestler's gold. It doesn't matter who it is. It's gold. It's going to sell. And that just doesn't really happen anymore. So I would say screen time, though. You know, winning a title, like I have seen that. But what I see, it's weird. I'll see, I don't know, pick a wrestler, you know, and say they win the title, and say that I have a $100, $200 autograph, gold, parallel, whatever it is, you know, pick whatever thing that the hobby says you could buy, you should buy or invest in. And let's say I have that in the store, but let's also say that of that talent, I have 5 base cards at $1.55, $2, $3, you know, whatever. What I have been seeing is that more people will come in and they'll just immediately scoop up all the low stuff because they're more collectors. They want it in their collection to represent that talent, or maybe something else. Like maybe they want to give it to their kids because they're getting their kids into the hobby and their kids were at the event. Tying back into when I was talking about wrestling relic cards, maybe they're just buying these lower end cards for their kids so they have that connection of being at the event, watching the event on TV. Maybe it was their first event. There's all kinds of little underlying things like that I think can drive wrestling card sales that maybe a lot of people just aren't thinking about as much as rarity, scarcity, autographs, blah, blah, blah. So circled around, answer your question. There you go. Kind of long-winded there. Sorry about that. Dex Floor Toys. I've noticed white sparkles have gone up also. I'm set building and have been getting outbid even for common guys. Let me tell you something about white sparkles. So I have been outbid, partially my own fault, on white sparkle, Carrying Cross, Prism. I need 3 of them, working on that binder project. So if you see one out there, if you have one, let me know. But I've been outbid on 4 or 5 of these things numerous times. And I would have paid double what these things sold for to have them. And it's my own fault because I've either got outbid because I underestimated what people are willing to pay for these white sparkles, or it's my fault and I didn't set up a bid reminder, got busy doing something else and completely forgot about the auction. But I've also heard this from other people too. White sparkles, you know, we can throw those in there with Galactics or some of these other tiger print, animal print, these other things that are unnumbered parallels. I believe the autographs, are you collecting the autographs or just I believe you're collecting the base cards is what you're talking about. I think the autographs are one-of-ones, but to my knowledge, the regular ones are just unnumbered, but there's rumored to be like 20, 15, 20, 25, something like that. So again, unnumbered parallels, and that's, I think, what's driving these up. So maybe the people who I don't know. Maybe there are collectors. Maybe they're sports card guys that understand the wrestling card community. Maybe hasn't latched on to these lower numbered or unnumbered parallels, and they see an opportunity. Or maybe it's people like you that are set collecting, and there's these unnumbered parallels. There's only so many to go around, so people are just scooping them up when they see the opportunity. So I'm not sure. Good comment though. That's all I had for today. If you guys enjoy this, thanks for stopping by. Hit that subscribe button. Give this video a like and spread the word. The more people that we get watching these, the more streams I can do, the more questions and just kind of fun we can have in the chat like we did today. Check the links in the show notes for all the ways you can help show your support for my content. I talked about Patreon at the start of the show. Links to that, links to the eBay store that I've also talked about. And again, I have to promote these things, but if you don't want to participate in them, that's fine. I appreciate you even stopping by for a second to check out what I'm doing. The fact that anybody at all cares about anything I have to say about wrestling cards or wrestling or carrying cross or what, Buffalo Bills, like whatever it is, I just appreciate you taking the time and continuing to show your support, even just with a subscription, by subscribing, liking, follow me on social media, links in the show notes to that as well, and anything else I have going on. So I thank you guys for watching. Until next time, just make sure to check out the video.